SeaWorld is one of the most well-known amusement park chains. The SeaWorld chain is home to not only SeaWorld parks, but also Busch Gardens and Sesame Place, totaling up to 38 roller coasters. In this video, we will rank them all. This is every SeaWorld roller coaster ranked. Just a few things before diving into the list. Because there are more coasters than a typical ranking, this video will be quicker paced. I have not ridden any of these coasters, so this is a prediction video. Finally, SeaWorld in Australia is actually not a SeaWorld park, so it will not be included here. With all of that said, let's jump into the list. 38. Super Grover's Boxcar Derby at SeaWorld San Antonio. This kiddie coaster consists of a couple of turns and a small drop before leading into the station. While it does take multiple laps, it's still a kiddie coaster, and a boring one with that. 37. Super Grover's Boxcar Derby at SeaWorld Orlando. This coaster, previously known as Shamu Express, is a big step up from the previous. While it is still a kiddie coaster and pretty slow on the hills due to the long trains, it's a bigger and more thrilling ride than the San Antonio version. 36. Air Grover. This Florida kiddie coaster isn't as tall or fast as the one in Orlando, but it is more intense. The final helix is surprisingly quick and intense for a kiddie coaster. 35. Grover's Alpine Express. This kiddie coaster in Virginia is a clone of the previous. This one is better because it has a bit more scenery around the layout. It's also a bit faster than Air Grover. 34. The best kiddie coaster in the chain by far is Vapor Trail at Sesame Place. This ride is far larger than any of the others and is almost a family coaster. The helices are large and fast, making for a fun kiddie coaster experience. 33. Sand Serpent. Yay, it's a wild mouse. This coaster is an exact clone of Dorney Park's Wild Mouse. It can be fun for some, but for most people, it's slow, boring, and very jerky on the turns. While it has okay lateral Gs, it's nothing to write home about, and the ride is pretty boring. 32. Tidal Twister. This ride by some isn't even considered a coaster. It has an okay layout with some tight turns, a small airtime hill, and an inversion. The ride cycles through this layout many times. Unfortunately, the ride is extremely bumpy and ruins the experience for all. 31. Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld San Diego. Here comes the surge of Journey to Atlantis water coasters, with the California one being the worst. After a drop, the ride enters slow turns full of literally nothing. The ride crawls into a small elevator lift and is taken into another massive drop. After a curving drop and a turn, the ride splashes down. While this is a pretty long ride, it's boring and slow, so it places last. 30. Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld San Antonio. This ride is a lot more thrilling than the California one. The Texas version of this water coaster goes backwards after a turntable. A small dip leads into another turntable which drops down in the biggest and last element of the coaster. This water coaster, while shorter and not as themed, it's a lot more thrilling. Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld Orlando places at number 29. This one is the best of the water coasters. While it is a slow coaster, it's a lot longer and very well themed. After some magnificent theming, the ride drops outside the building and takes a turn to the right. More theming ends off the coaster after a large splashdown. The theming alone makes this the best of the bunch. 28. Scorpion. Now we start getting into the more thrilling coasters. While Scorpion is a fun looping coaster, it doesn't compare with the more thrilling rides in the chain. Scorpion is also a bit too short for my liking. Also, it's just not as intense or smooth as other Schwarzkopf loopers. The other rides in the chain are much better. 27. Cobra's Curse. This ride is pretty unique. Located at Busch Gardens, Tampa is this spinning coaster. While it isn't very intense or fast-paced, it's just pure fun. The ride consists of a few turns and a giant cobra head. The theming and spinning make up for the slow experience. I can only place it so high as the layout isn't great and it's a pretty slow ride. 26. Loch Ness Monster. This Busch Gardens Williamsburg looper is pretty unique. Unlike most arrows, this ride only has two inversions. After a loop and a helix through a tunnel, the ride goes down a drop. The most unique element is the interlocking loops. The second loop intertwines with the first, giving a nice head chopper. Unfortunately, Loch Ness can be rough and a bit bland in the middle, but everything else is pretty great. 25. Wave Breaker. This motorbike coaster, which is actually more of a jet ski coaster, is quite a fun ride. Included in this layout is a few launches, a copious amount of turns, and lots of fun elements. While there aren't many airtime hills or intense moments, Wavebreaker provides a pure fun experience over the water. 24. Verbolten. Quite an odd name, I know. This trip through the Forbidden Forest takes a turn when you enter the dark building. The few turns in the beginning make Verbolten look like a kiddie ride, but after the launch, the train rockets around in some tight bends with some strobing lights. Now, while this ride can be exciting in the building, there are some dead spots and it has a vibration which ruins the ride. Most people preferred Big Bad Wolf, which resided in the same spot as Verbolten. 23. Manta at SeaWorld San Diego. This mock launch is surprisingly fun for a family coaster. While it isn't very tall or fast, it has some fun turns and a bit of airtime. The theming is pretty good, and the launch provides a nice thrill for younger riders. With its fast transitions and tight turns, Manta is a fun ride that even some enthusiasts can enjoy. It's not placed higher due to how tame it can be in some parts, though. 22. Invader, another asinine Williamsburg name. Invader is a small GCI wooden coaster that packs a bit of a punch. After a drop that has a head chopper that almost feels too close, riders go on a trip with many small airtime pops. Turns are the ride's main focus, which the train does perfectly. Unfortunately, some parts of this family coaster can feel a bit bland, especially in the middle. 21. Oscar's Wacky Taxi. The last Sesame Place coaster and also the coaster used in a lot of memes. Oscar's Wacky Taxi is very fast for a family coaster. The ride is full of little airtime pops and turns that thrill some enthusiasts. While it is a bit small and doesn't have the best forces, it has some fun elements that bring it up to the 21 spot. 20. Great White. Now we get into the bigger rides. These coasters aren't really family coasters anymore and are mainly big coasters for the biggest thrill seekers. Great White is unfortunately a clone of Batman the Ride, which basically every enthusiast has ridden. That doesn't mean it isn't a good ride. Great White, while it isn't very smooth, it has some good forces, especially near the end. While it doesn't stack up against the bigger coasters in the chain, it's still a lot of fun. 19. Tempesto. All of the following coasters are interchangeable, but I think the order I have them in makes sense. Tempesto is the first of 3 Skyrocket 2 models by Premier. Tempesto is the oldest of the bunch, built back in 2015. The restraints aren't the best, but the layout is thrilling and intense. 18. Electric Eel. This is the second best of the Skyrocket 2s by Premier. It has more theming than Tempesto, and is a bit smoother. 17. Tigress. This is the newest of the bunch. Opening in 2019, it's the smoothest of the coasters. While the layout or restraints haven't changed, I decided to put this one at the top as it's presented the nicest and is the newest. These are all interchangeable. 16. Kraken, the most well-known floorless coaster. Kraken is one of the better floorless coasters due to the magnificent layout. It isn't very smooth, some enthusiasts even pointing out the headbanging while riding. The roughness pushes this ride down for me, but that doesn't mean that the fast-paced inversions are bad though. Kraken is still a great roller coaster that is deserving of the top 20. 15. Icebreaker. This ride isn't even open, but based on the shots from testing, we can tell that this ride looks fabulous. While it isn't super fast, it provides an airtime-packed and whippy experience. The beginning has a backward segment, which is always a nice addition to a coaster. The top hat is small but strong, and the turns look intense and whippy. Icebreaker looks fun, but not as great as the coasters coming up. 14. Emperor. This dive coaster also isn't open, but we can already tell that this ride will be a blast. Maybe I am just a big fan of dive coasters, but I love the airtime-packed first drops they give. While it isn't as tall or fast, it has a lot better pacing than the other dive coasters. The inversions look hang-time-packed, and it looks like a pure fun experience. But just because this has better pacing than the other dive coasters doesn't mean it's the best, because number 13 is SheiKra. This red behemoth of a coaster has better restraints than Emperor, causing for a lot better of experience. With more room in the restraint comes a lot more airtime on that first drop. While the mid-course basically stops the train, riders dive back down and go through many fun turns in a hang-time-filled inversion. 12. Griffin. The best dive coaster in the chain is also the biggest and longest. The drop is still floater-filled with the open restraints, and this ride consists of more inversions and elements. This causes for a more fun and exciting ride experience, but these 3 can be interchangeable. 11. Steel Eel. This Morgan hypercoaster, which actually isn't a hyper at all, is often considered to be one of the best in the state. It has a weird first drop that is shallow at first but then steepens in the middle. The coaster is full of fun turns and big airtime moments that throw guests out of their seats. Overall, Steel Eel is a long and fun coaster deserving of the number 11 spot. 10. Cheetah Hunt. This Intamin is often considered to be the best family coaster in the state, and for good reason. Cheetah Hunt is fun for the whole family. It has some intense elements. The launches are intense and it has some rapid transitions and tight valleys near the end. It also has family elements and inversions like the zero-G roll and the helix in the sky. It's a thrilling coaster that has elements for every type of thrill seeker. 9. Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. The B&M Flyer in the chain and quite possibly the most popular flying coaster of all time. Manta isn't as intense as Tatsu, but it still has some fun elements and super intense moments. The most intense is the pretzel loop, where riders dive down on their backs and experience bone-crushing positives. The other elements are whippy and provide some great G's as well. Manta is a very well-rounded coaster. 8. Alpengeist. The biggest B&M invert is Alpengeist, and while it isn't the best invert, it definitely deserves the number 8 spot. This is because of the speed that this ride has and the whippy maneuvers it takes in the first half. Themed to an abandoned ski lift, Alpengeist dives through many whips in the first half. The Cobra Roll especially, while a bit jerky, it provides some great intensity and whip. Everyone who rides Alpengeist loves it. 7. Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This B&M Hyper has some of the best floater airtime in the country. The first drop has a pre-drop, causing for better airtime, and each of the massive floater hills provides superb airtime. The turnaround is intense and fast, causing for a very thrilling experience near the ground. The main draw to this attraction is of course the excellent airtime. Each hill provides some great negatives, which is why Apollo places in the top 10. 6. Kumba. This B&M sit-down is often considered to be one of the most intense coasters in the world. Kumba is extremely whippy and intense, which is why it appeals to most enthusiasts and deserves to be at number 6. The first half consists of many inversions, including a loop that goes around the lift hill. Afterwards, more whips occur inside the Cobra Roll, zero-G roll, and corkscrews. In between these elements are intense turns and valleys, causing for a very exciting experience. 5. Texas Stingray, the best wooden coaster in the chain, and also the newest coaster to open. Texas Stingray is one of the best GCI wooden coasters. It has a unique layout where it starts spread out and gets a lot tighter as it moves along. GCI is known for its airtime-packed turns. Before every turn is a little pop of airtime. Texas Stingray is full of airtime on every hill and it has many tight turns with rapid transitions. The second half is full of ejector airtime and fun twists that puts it at the number 5 spot on this list. 4. Montu. Possibly the best inverted coaster in the world is Montu. Montu is by far the most intense B&M invert in the States. Every inversion and turn provides some great positives, and the coaster uses the trenches in a great way. After the intense loop in Immelman, the train dives into a zero-G roll. This roll is very quick, so it whips the rider around in a very fun way. The Batwing is very whippy and intense, so it is definitely the best part of the coaster. The rest of Montu is like the first half, intense and whippy, which is why Montu places at number 4. 3. Mako, the last SeaWorld branded coaster on the list. Mako is the biggest coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. It's often considered the best hyper due to its layout. It not only has great floater airtime, but also turns and ejector hills. The first airtime hill provides over 5 seconds of sustained floater. Ejector airtime occurs right before the mid-course, which might be the best part of the ride. The finale consists of fun overbanks to twist up the hypercoaster layout. Mako is unique and has possibly the best airtime on any coaster, making it place at the number 3 spot. 2. Iron Gwazi. This one is going to get hate from most of you. In my opinion, Iron Gwazi deserves to be number 2 and not number 1. Iron Gwazi is often considered to be the best ride in the world, and the people who think this have great reasons. Iron Gwazi is very intense, full of airtime, and it has some of the whippiest RMC moments. The layout is spectacular, with its outer bank turn, death roll, and crazy whips to the side. While this coaster isn't open yet, coaster enthusiasts can't wait to hop on board the coaster deserving of the number 2 spot in the SeaWorld chain. Finally, 1 is Pantheon. Pantheon, in my opinion, is better than Iron Gwazi because each of the elements looks stronger and the layout is better overall. Pantheon has similar elements to Iron Gwazi, but they are all executed better. Also, Pantheon runs backwards for some parts and also has multiple launches to accelerate the train in an exciting manner. Everything else on this ride is flawless. It has everything you need, whips to the side around Pantheon, and sustained airtime, outer banks, big drops, hang time, and intensity are here as well. This, in my opinion, is the best coaster that will open in 2021 and is definitely deserving of the number 1 spot. Also, shout out to my friends, Broster Legend, Popester Legend, both of them being a play on words with my channel name, Coaster Legend, and shout out to Eggs and Toast, who actually has a YouTube channel. There will be a link in the description. Thank you for watching this massive video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment if you agree with my list and join my classroom. There is a link in the description. Email me if you have questions or concerns, and have a great rest of your day.